Hey, let's make a recessed blade. I'm waiting on a chassis to print for this Roman Props Buried Hope, and I need to make a recessed blade for it because, as you can see, I already installed the Neopixel and I put it in that cup. These are typically only used on thin neck sabers, right, that you don't have a lot of blade depth. So Buried Hope, you know, any kind of Obi-Wan saber, MK1 from Roman Props, you know, Magic of Myth from 7 Chambers, those types of things. So this is pretty much all you need. I've got this 1-inch thin wall blade tube from Custom Saber Shop. If I push this out here, you can see I've got my foam, and I also have the nylon diffuser. So that these are the 3 things, you know, main things that go into my blade. So we'll put this off to the side. These are what I like to use, so BTF strips. I'm gonna go ahead and open these up real quick. I use my teeth. So you got one there, one here. I will put these together, you know, before I cut them down to size. It's just easier that way. And then I've got, I designed this and 3D printed it to hold my PCB. I like to use these PCBs from Osh Park. And if you flip those over there, in the middle there, it's got a place for a resistor, you know, a 330 ohm or whatever, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bridge that with some solder because the PCB that I'm using inside of the actual saber has a resistor on the PCB. Most of them do. So that's what I'm going to do there. And then, you know, we'll solder this together. Lots of people have demos or tutorials out there on how to do this, and everybody's a little bit different, but this is just my way. This snaps in, and I'll show you what we do with this here in a minute. Need some scissors to eventually cut the LED strips down to size, so we'll put those over here, and my X-Acto knife with a new blade. I always try to make exchange my blade when I'm making blades. So that's trash, right? We don't need that. Come over here and take this apart. All my blade tip as well. All right, so of course we'll put all that together. I just want to unwind this. This can be a little difficult to do on camera, but I'll try my best. We want to pay attention to our arrows. So our arrows are pointed that way. So what I like to do is I'll just come over here and I will cut the last 3 pixels off. Just like that, and I'll get rid of this guy. I don't need it, right? Make sure you do that on the right side though. So the arrow's going this way. All right, so we'll go ahead and straighten this out with our fingers. Kind of give it a nice, just try to straighten it out a little bit. Typically I'd stand up and do this. So we'll do what we can on camera. So that's one. We'll do the second roll. Come over here. Bring this out. And we'll do the same thing. So my arrows are going this way. I don't typically make blades unless it's a recessed blade. I'll make that for people if they need it because it's a pretty custom thing. Each thin neck saber is a little bit different in depth. And if I'm doing one for a customer and he needs a blade, I don't mind making them. As far as like normal Neopixel blades though, I don't typically do those anymore. It's something that I used to do, but there's companies like Bendu Armory out there where you can get regular Neopixel blades. He sells them for a really good price, cheaper than what I could make them for. So that's what I suggest. So now coming over here, we'll move these over here a bit. We're going to take our X-Acto knife and we're going to carefully cut this shrink tube off. It's a new blade, so it should come right off. If not, one more pass should do it. Pop that off there. We've got all these wires. We got these 2 strays out here. I'm going to take my wire clippers and cut them right at the solder joint. Just like that. So now it's left me with just this piece. And I'm going to cut that pretty short. Just like that. And that's what I want right there. Now what I'll do from here, before I go and do the other one, I'm going to split these. because I like to use the wires that come with the strip. I'm going to shave off the tips and pre-tin them. I also don't like to jump my wires, so some people will jump them and just make 3 leads going into your PCB, which is fine. But I like to just go ahead and use all 6. One, 2, 3. There we go. So that one's ready. Bring this one over here and do the same thing, right? So cut this shrink tube off. Maybe a second pass. If you have a brand new blade, it should pop off pretty easy. We'll get these 2 out of the way, right? Cut them at the solder joint, boom. And this one at the joint. And now I have to look before I cut this. I want these to be even. So if I go over here, I know that I'm going to, you can see those LEDs, they're not back to back. I like to stagger them like that, right? So staggered them, not back to back, but stagger them like this. And if I do that, then I'm going to have to cut that wire about right here. All right. You want it as short as you can get it, especially on a recessed blade. If you were making a normal blade, you wouldn't have to worry about that so much because you'd have some of that blade depth in the saber to kind of hide any loose wiring or just, you know, some slack that you gave yourself to work easy. But because this is a recessed blade, this is only going, you know, so far into the hilt, and then it's coming out, so it's got to shine. All right. So we got those stripped. Dip them in here. Tin these up real quick. Having a camera in your face can be a little bit of a challenge. So now we need to remember which one we cut shorter than the other one. And it was this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the longer one, which is this. I'm going to peel back not only the blue part, but the sticky part too. Now if you go ahead and you grab both of those, so instead of just peeling back the sticker, you know, peel back the adhesive layer too. We're going to pull all that off, and it'll come right off. Just like that. So we've got that bareback. Shit. Bareback. Now this one we just want to peel the backing off. We want to leave the sticker on it. All right, so take your time. I got to get it closer to my face because I have a hard time seeing. Usually they come right off when I'm doing it by myself. There we go. So just want to peel it back a little bit at a time. All right. Line up that stagger like we did when we were cutting the wire. So you see how we started it. You can see how the LEDs kind of bounce back and forth. They're not directly behind each other, so we can get the maximum amount of lighting. Now you want this on a flat surface. This is again where I would normally go to my other desk because I don't have any mats on my other desk, and I'd use the tabletop. But for the sake of trying to record this, I'll use my mat. And then just work your way down a little bit at a time. You want to make sure the sides of these strips are side by side exactly, okay? And then just pull this off a few inches at a time and work your way down. That way it's not sticking anywhere it's not supposed to. Take your time. We're almost there. A little bit more. This is the part that I'll probably end up cutting off anyway, but I just like to go ahead and do this in one stroke, and then you know, we'll measure how long we want the blade later, and we'll cut the LEDs appropriately. Get the rest of that off. Just like that. All right, so now we've got our entire strip stuck together. Put this right here. We'll bring our PCB over. I don't know if I can zoom in. Yeah, I guess I can. We'll put this right here. We want to bridge these two pads because these two pads are for the resistor. All right. Sometimes this goes easy and sometimes it doesn't, but you should just lay this over there like that. Like that. And now I'll come over here and I will tin these. All 6 of them. Whoops. But you can see I got those 2 middle ones bridged. I got the 3 other ones ready to be soldered to. We'll back this up a little bit. Bring this in. You can just wire these appropriately. I'm going to do these shorter ones first. They're already tinned, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Just take your time. There's one. There's 2. There's 3. We'll take this off and flip it around. Kind of fold that out, and then I'll just do the other 3 on my desk with my tweezers. I'm holding it with my finger. If you're not used to doing it this way, of course it's easier to use your helping hands, but sometimes it's easier for me just to get in there and hold it. All 6 of those joints are solid now. All right, we're good there. We'll put this away. That's when we bring in this guy right here that I 3D printed, right? I'm gonna put just a little bit of glue. It doesn't take much of this stuff, so you don't have to glob it on, just a few drops. Plus I made this a really nice press fit, so this is just ensuring it stays on. You see I put about 6 little dabs on there. Bring our strip over, put our piece through, feed it through. Bring it over here. Snap it in place. And now that's glued on. Whoops, sorry. Now that's all glued on. We're gonna let that sit for a second. We need to figure out how long we want our blade. So I'll take the nylon diffuser and the foam out of my blade. I'll bring my blade in. This is actually a really good size. So I think I already ordered this to size. I think it's like 32 inches or so. So I gotta lay this next to my blade. I'll show you one side and then I'll move it and show you what I'm doing. I put it over here and I know, because I've already installed the emitter on the Saber, I know that this PCB is gonna be sitting up about this far, right? So I'm gonna hold that there. And again, I would normally do this without moving this, but I'm trying to show you. If I brought this over here, take my marker, make sure my LED strip is straight, and I say I'm going to cut it right there on that one, and I'm going to cut it right behind that one, so right here, and that's how I mark them. You could use a tape measure and measure if you need to. I've just done this a lot, so I know that's going to work out good for me. I always also leave myself maybe an extra pixel or two, because I can always go in and trim if it's too long. So then loosen it like that. We'll cut that. We'll flip it over and get rid of this one. This is a pretty long extra piece, so I'll save these two pieces and use them in a chassis or a crystal chamber or something down the road. Now I've got the length of strip that I need. I'm going to cut a slight angle on the two sides like that. Turn it over like that. Don't cut the resistor there, so stay away from that. Get as close as you can without cutting that. Now I'm going to take my foam, lay it right next to my strip. First I'm going to bring it to the end of my PCB holder, like that. Move that to the other side so you can see the other side. Oops. It ends right there, so I'll probably just cut it right there. All right. I gave myself a little bit of extra foam, and before I put this on the strip, I'll come in here with my fingers and flatten it, moving it down, moving my fingers down until I reach the other side right here. That may or may not help, but it makes me feel better. So now we can start feeding our foam in. Sometimes it'll go in real easy, and other times not. You'll get to a certain point where you can't really push it anymore. You just gotta play around with this part till you find a technique. Oops. When you've gotten to the point where you think you can't push it in anymore, that's when the slow part comes in. So you got to find the end of your strip, which is right here, and just kind of snake it through. And it'll take as long as it takes. Just inching this LED strip through the foam. Take your time with this so you don't rip your foam. We're almost there. Let me move this a little bit right there. And I got it to the end of the strip there. And see, I got a little bit extra right here. So I'll take this little bit extra that I left for myself. I'm still gonna leave a little bit extra. If you can see that, it's right there, but you know, it's about right here. So I'll set that off to the side. We need to take our blade and our nylon piece, and I need to know how long to cut my nylon piece. So again, I'll give that a little bit of a measure. Need to cut it right there. Take this blade and move it out of the way. Come in here with your scissors. There you go. Cut this however you can, just make it neat. You got to come in here with these. You can do it with these too. So now that's the size. We can throw that away. That away. We can take our nylon piece and now put our foam with our LED in it. Take your time here too, because sometimes these go in really easy and sometimes it could be a pain. This one seems to be doing all right. Push that up in there with my tweezers so I'm not stressing the wire. And now we've got that in there. I'm not going to trim that yet. I'm going to take now my blade. Throw the foam and the nylon diffuser in it. Now this is the part, I made this to be a press fit into here, and it's a pretty tight press fit, so I have to do that on the floor. But as you can see, where are you at? Right there. You know, that's going to be press fit in there. So let me go do that on the floor real quick and I'll be right back. You see how I got that in there, and now I can press that. Pretty hard to push that in there, which is exactly what I want. So usually I'll take like something flat, like the back of this marker, right? Push it in there a little bit more. Now this is the point where if you don't know your measurement, you're going to want to go measure your emitter, because that has to be a certain distance in there for it to be good and still hit your emitter pins. I'm just going to wing mine for now because I know what the distance is. So I'm going to leave it like that for now because that's a good distance for me, and then I can button that up later if it needs to go in there deeper. I always try to not go as deep as I think I need to go, so I've got some room to adjust when I put it in the saber and test it. But that's one side. Now I can come back over here. I could trim this up. That came out very good. I don't need to trim that up because this will light up the tip of the blade. Sometimes though, what I'll do is I'll come back here and I'll cut this back one off, and you can take this pixel and bend it so it's facing up, but you don't need to do that. Put a little bit of glue on this blade tip. Again, not too much. And that is our recessed blade. I'll probably go through and give that a mild sanding, and then I will test fire this here after I install the saber later on this afternoon, and I'll adjust that. I'm positive that needs to go in there just a little bit more, but it is extremely difficult to push that in there with this piece that I modeled, and once you get it in place, it never moves. I don't like putting grub screws in the side of the blade and everything like that. This has always worked well for me. I've never had any complaints with my recessed blades. But that is how I make a recessed blade. It's not the only way, it's just my way. Thanks for watching.